Art of Comics, I'm kicking some ass. I'm feeling it. I'm freaking feeling it. I'm feeling what I'm doing. You know, after an hour or so, you start getting in the groove. You get in that like the river of creativity. I'm in it. I'm stoked.
Are you ready?
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Thanks for watching The Art of Comics. I'm your host, Andres Jose Salazar. Today, we're gonna do lesson 2. I'm excited to share this with you from the Famous Artist course. This was the course created by the famous 12 illustrators of the era in the early 50s. I think it was 54. It was when the first version of this series came out of 24 lessons. This is the 1960 edition, and they come in these big, massive 9 by 13 page binders. There's 3 of these, and today we're doing lesson 2. And so I find these super fun. First off, as a fan of illustration and the golden era of illustration, the 50s and 60s, I dig it just to kind of see their artwork. It's fun for me. It's like a time capsule to see this kind of stuff. You don't have these kind of male correspondence art courses anymore. I mean, now it would be online, right? But these binders, I think, are just a really cool history lesson. And number 2 is there's good teaching in here. And so I actually have studied lesson 2. I'm on lesson 5, I think. So I'm on 5. Yeah, I'm on 5, maybe 6 even. So I'm working through them a little slower than I had hoped, but it is what it is. So here we go. Lesson 2, the form. Okay. Today we're gonna learn about form, boys and girls. So get your pencils, get your papers, and let's study some form. In this, we're talking really about shapes and these different forms. When we talk about forms, we're really talking about shapes, okay? So the 4 types of forms or shapes: sphere, cylinder, cube, and cone, okay? So it's understanding and breaking down everything you see into those. So here's an example of this still life drawing of a box and a little sundry of items, right? And so one of the things they teach is learning about breaking all these items up into these forms, okay? Your rectangle form, your circular form, sphere form, your cylinder form, all these things. And part of breaking that through is by drawing through it. And so that's what we're gonna learn today is like, this form extends back into the space of your picture. So the real form in depth. So part of this is you're on a 2-dimensional surface, piece of paper, but we're trying to create this illusion of 3-dimensionality. The way to do that is understanding the depth or understanding the lines behind it. And that bottle, that wine bottle, has a circle, right? Which is, it shows the form of that object. So, how to draw the illusion of real form. So this is talking about how you have a cutout, a 2-dimensional cutout of an apple, right? Which is just 2-dimensional. So you're looking at these 2 things. This photograph illustrates the basic difference between solid form and a flat shape, okay? So solid form, the real apple rests solidly on the palm and the thumb and fingers fit around it. But the flat, paper-thin cutout lacks mass and depth. It can be pinched between the thumb and forefinger. When you draw objects, give them real shape and structure. Make them solid forms instead of flat outlines. So that's really the distinction. They're saying shape is a 2-dimensional thing, a form is a 3-dimensional thing. So I guess I misspoke there for a minute. Apologize that. But the idea is that you draw through everything. So every object has a basic form. We talked about there's cubes, right? So a house is a series of cubes. Spheres, there's all these objects are types of spheres. Cones, these are all types of cones. And cylinders. And the idea is that when you draw these, and the exercises they want you to do is they want you to draw these, but also put the the symbol or lines around it that would create the form, right? So you're going to draw through things. That's like the idea is you draw through them. So one of the things they say is go look around your house and draw everything through it, right? So if I look at my place, where's my paper? So, for example, if I look right now down below, I've got a bunch of paint and jars down there. So I would draw my cup, right? I have like a little mug down there that I put paint in. The idea is I'm drawing through it. Everything I have, I'm drawing through it, right? I mean, this is really crappy because I'm just doing this really quickly. There's another little thing of linseed oil, right? So I'm gonna do this, but I'm drawing through this because I'm trying to show it's about breaking this down into shapes. It's not about if actually it looks like this, because I would have to erase some of these things, right? But you're drawing through these shapes. And I have another bottle. I got bottles. It looks like an alcoholic. Okay. Okay. So I'm drawing all the, and then I have a box right here, actually. Man, this is a... Okay, and so on, right? So that's the idea, is you get these objects and you draw through them. So that was kind of like the practice they want you to kind of do. So for lesson 2, we're in the beginning of art. The beginning of our understanding is really breaking things down into shapes. Even a dog, right? A face, a head is a modified sphere. I mean, this is super basic, right? We're not even doing anatomy. We're just like a sphere. This, a dog is a cylinder, the neck is a cylinder, that. And so you just kind of like break things down into shapes. And this is done by illustrators and artists all the time. That's what we do, is we break things down. The human body, we're gonna do that, is we breaking these thighs down into shapes, okay? That stump, he's putting that circle in there to make that. This is a great example, because cars are really hard to draw, but yet if you break it down into just their boxes, they're different types of rectangles, you can kind of like do it better. That barn is great too. So this is kind of like the idea. Sometimes when we think about living objects and organic things, it's a little harder, because you have to well, really, what is that? It's not, her butt is not a box, right? So you have to kind of like think about that a little bit differently. The other part now we're talking about shading, right? And how to shade. And this is where we're now we're looking towards light and how light affects things. So look at this. This is just some great illustrations. They don't have the names of these. Sometimes they'll say who did these. Sometimes they don't, because none of these 2 pages show like what is actually who did these pieces. But I really like them. And here's some things to avoid as far as errors. Use light and shadow to give form and structure to your pictures. Make them more convincing. In almost every case, it is the object that's important, not the shadows. So here, inconsistent lighting, you see how, well, if the light's coming this way, right, then why is there shadow over here, right? Because it's still here. So there's inconsistency here. The distracting shadows, this is where the shadow is like too exaggerated and it kind of gets in your way of your drawing. And the confusing shadows, like what the hell's going on here? So I do like the avoiding errors, and they have like a little like cutout. I don't know if you're supposed to like put these up somewhere to remember. Here's a great picture by Harold von Schmidt, and I really like the way you see this. I would love to see this in color. It's a really crime that they don't put these in color, because they could have, darn it. I mean, I know it would have amped up the cost maybe, and that was it. I don't know, but these would have been great in color. But the idea is the same, right? You look at these solid look at these solid objects, and it just creates a better illustration. So great look at like the mesa, the clouds, the sagebrush, all this stuff showing form, right? Same thing here. And this is like a cool, project. You can like get a painting or get some scraps, from your scrap file and just like pull it out and draw the shapes in those objects and break this down, right? So break this truck down into its pieces, So that's actually like a good exercise to train your mind, right? So you get a piece of paper, you go, okay, I'm gonna draw this truck, right? And you guys, okay, I'm gonna figure out what is this truck, right? Okay, and what are the shapes that make this truck? And you start thinking about, okay, and you start, okay, let's do that. This is a shape here too. And so you just break everything down. And now I would draw these through, right? So now I'm drawing this box. I'm drawing this stuff through. That's another box. Right, and so they do it right there. So it's just finding objects to train your eye. So practice it. That's the really take of this whole lesson. So creating the illusion of form and space. So now we're talking about using the picture plane, using your framing device to decide where they are in space. Within your picture, there must be room for each of the objects to exist just the way they do in reality, right? So the positioning of those objects is important. And then you would draw through this. You would draw through that. You would draw that across. You would draw these things over like that. Here's some good examples. I like that. I like these perspective. I mean, that's what this is really kind of teaching about perspective. Some more examples. Solid forms adds conviction. So when you create these solid forms, there's a sense of reality, I think, for it. I don't know if it can have been. Here's Austin Briggs, who I love. The design of this illustration is based on the arrangement of figures and furnishings within the three-dimensional space of a living room. Briggs placed his forms carefully, one overlapping another, to create a real sense of depth in the picture. As he drew the figures, sofas, chairs, and tablets, he was aware of both form and space. So you're adding things in layers, right? And by putting them in those layers, you create that sense of reality and sense of space. So space is the form within that area, right? So you have these things that are overlapping, and you don't really think of that, but that's what the artist has to do is think about how these objects are working together, interlaced, and look how these are pulled apart. So that's a great job. Now, he could have just photographed this, but when he was photographing this, he was still composing these people in these positions. Objects look different from different positions. So here's again seeing this where you have different views, as you look above, straight on, above, different angles, you can see how objects look. Now we're talking about perspective, kind of like. So this is actually kind of neat because we actually start seeing perspective. I mean, we're learning this already in the second lesson, right? Is, the first perspective, or a 1-point perspective, where everything's going to one line, one vanishing point. That's what the vanishing point is 1. That's what's called 1-point perspective. Same thing here. Everything's going to this. Everything's going to that. There's a great picture by Peter Helk. Here's another Austin Briggs shot. Again, you can see these lines are going there, right? Norman Rockwell. Now we have 2-point perspective with 2 vanishing points. Usually your vanishing points when you're doing 2-point perspective are outside the frame. They're way off in other spots. And it turns everything to its side, right? So now you get 2 sides of things, right? If this house was straight on, you wouldn't get that. You would just get the front side. And the other sides would be going away from you. Again, you can angle it up. If you put the vanishing point high, or the horizontal line high, then you're looking down on it. If you put the the horizontal line down, then you're looking up at it. Which actually right here, right, we see this. That's just what I said. Here's Robert Fawcett doing this same thing. Where now the horizontal line is so far down, we're looking up. So up, down, right? It's really cool. This is about proportion, and this is okay. This is too. I do like how you're looking at, okay, when drawn correctly, and then they show like the ones that are like totally goofed up. It's kind of funny. So, proportion within objects. Ask yourself, what are the overall proportions? Is it higher than a wide? Is it square? How much roof can I see? What's the comparison to the walls? So you're looking at comparing all these objects together to remember. See, observe, remember. This is kind of interesting about silhouettes and how to do silhouettes so that you can get the most information out of it. And so if too many things overlap in a silhouette, you lose understanding of what it is. So that's where that comes from. Again, same thing here. It's a little bit hard to see what this is in a silhouette, but if you cheat it out a bit, if you cheat them out, then you see both hands, then you understand. So it kind of it explains it. So that's what this page is. Actually a great way to do that. We use silhouette a lot in comics. It's a great tool. And now here's like some lessons, a little lesson you're gonna do, okay? Get an image. First, we're gonna sketch it out. We're gonna look at these different, we're going this way. Sketch it out. We start looking at we block everything out. We draw in the pieces, draw through the objects, and then we're gonna put some shading on it according to light, right? So we draw through the objects, sketch it, draw through the objects, make sure the form, you're drawing through the objects so you get the forms right. That's all that is. It's just guiding. It's like a grid. You make a 3-dimensional grid is all we're doing. Same thing for this figure. So it's kind of cool. I did those. And now they do a little like retrospective or thing on Peter Helk, and they break down his painting. And they did the same thing with Robert Fawcett, who I love. They break down his painting and the different levels of work, which is cool. I mean, I didn't know. I wonder if these artists like keep all these. They must, right? For certain ones, they must get them. And then that was it. So, and now another practice thing to do is, work on these different shapes and stuff. So this is kind of fun. And then this is the assignment. Remember from the last one, you do assignments, right? So he's talking about do these 20 drawings, draw through things, go look around you, do these objects, do the barn and silo. There was a barn and silo to do, which I don't have the plate for. And then there was another kind of like wash to do for it. So that's lesson 2, kind of a quick one, but the it's actually critical, this information about drawing through things and understanding the form. Next one we're going to do is composition, which is a little more complicated and more academic in some ways. Okay, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying these famous artists courses. I think they're so fun. If nothing else, it's just kind of cool to check it out. Thanks, guys. Bye.